There we are. Now we're ready to get into the actual fire phase. Oh boy. Uh, the sequence here so you can see. Firing, phasing player fires, then the non-phasing player. And this isn't simultaneous, folks. One side fires, causes casualties, and then the other side does likewise. So you could reduce a target unit and he won't be as effective when he shoots back. That's an important part of this game. So initiative is important, especially in shooting, not just maneuvering and charging. Very interesting how that plays out. I like it, I must say. But anyway, remember the Russians are the phasing player, the ones with initiative. And we're going to go through some shooting. So we'll get out our green dice and we'll see what happens. Grab the modifiers here, you can see. And by the way, there's 2 play sheets with this game, and they're double-sided. So there's basically 4 play sheets. 2 double-sided, so it's 4. So there you go. And here's the side with all the shooting goodness on it. Here you got your artillery ranges. Here you got your musketry ranges. Down here we've got the skirmish firing and garrison firing. There's their modifiers. This is the number of dice they roll based on the size of the skirmish unit, so on. And down here we have our infantry and artillery modifiers, as you can see. And down here is the results for infantry and artillery. Our skirmish fire is a little bit different. They just roll a number of dice. Their modifiers are a modifier on the dice, the number of dice you roll, and you need a 4+ to hit in all cases. So if you get it, you get hit. Simple as that. Infantry and artillery are a little bit different. They're a little bit more detailed. The modifiers, for instance, give you a modifier to the number of dice rolled, as well as possibly a modifier to the result. Whatever the result is, you take down here, cross-reference with the type of shooter, and you get the result, which usually is a number of casualties on the target, as well as some possible other effects like DT is a discipline test the target has to take. Yeah, very interesting. And this over here, FD and FC, these are negative effects on the shooter. So it's possible that the shooter could get penalized by taking casualties. For instance, artillery that just shoots away uselessly against, say, skirmish targets might end up getting such a low roll, they end up getting a fatigue casualty. That's what FC stands for, and it only results in a really low roll. And what a fatigue casualty represents in this case is, well, it represents the loss of ammunition and troops getting tired, and they're not as effective as they should be. In the case of artillery, you can see what I mean if they just blast away all day. So you are penalized for just indiscriminately shooting with your artillery in this game. I like it. Very good. So let's go through this and see what happens. We're starting with the Russians. The first thing we want to do is look at the infantry. We can see the infantry, a close order volley is up to 15 centimeters. Squares shoot up to 5. Skirmish shoot up to 20 centimeters. Russians don't have any skirmishers at the moment. Skirmish rifle fire. Say your Brits out there. You know, there they are. Here's something interesting. There is a specific modifier for the 60th and 95th rifles. If they're 2 bases or more, they get a +1 CD. CD stands for combat dice or casualty dice. In this case, they get an extra dice when they shoot, basically. So that's pretty cool. Normally, you roll 2d6. For skirmishers, the number of dice you roll is based on the number of bases in the unit. But other than that, other than skirmish and garrison fire, it's 2d6. And you'll modify that number of dice and your final score with these modifiers. So let's take a look at the infantry for the Russians. 15 centimeters is their maximum range. There is no close range and short. It's just one distance. So 15 centimeters. Let's check it out. This unit, if you remember, did not move, which is good. They won't be penalized when they fire. They want to fire on these skirmishers and take them out of the action. 8 centimeters away, well within range, we're going to do that. So they're going to roll 2d6 as a standard number of dice to roll. Now remember, they've taken 3 casualties so far, 3, and that means they are still fresh. 3 or less is a fresh unit. More than that, you're no longer fresh. Okay, infantry shooting. If they're elite, they get +1 CD. That's casualty dice. Let me focus in there. Large battalion, no casualties. 4 or more, -1. 8 or more, -2. Unformed, they're not unformed. That's an interesting modifier. They not only suffer a -2 when they shoot, but they also use the inferior volley category when you're checking your results. Inferior volley. See? There's the standard. Here's inferior. Okay, where else? Moved. They would move or lost fire discipline. Use inferior volley. There is no numerical penalty for that, so it's just they use inferior volley. Recruit or small battalions use inferior volley. So there's no modifiers for them being infantry shooting. Now, infantry target is, we're shooting at skirmishers. We're going to look at this category. Infantry in column at 5 centimeters, and firers are fresh. My unit's fresh, but I'm not shooting at a column. That would be a +1 casualty die. In square or massed infantry columns, deployed battery, or skirmishers. This one applies -2 to the result. And finally, in cover, -1. So there's only a -2 to my die roll. So I'm rolling 2d6 -2. And again, if you're looking at this, you check under infantry, that's the shooter, and then the infantry target is whatever this states, like in square, or deployed battery, or skirmishers. So you look at this. If it was artillery firing, you'd use this box, and artillery target is whatever the target of my artillery shooting. Look through this and see which applies. So that's how this section works. So there is a total of -2 to the die roll. And again, standard roll, 2d6. Also, there's this little note. Half the casualties if fire in column or square, or 2, target is in a built-up area or strong point garrison. So neither one applies. So we're going to roll the 2d6 and apply a -2, folks, and see what happens. Not bad. You can see how the shooting sequence could go by quite quickly, and it does actually. You know, it seems like there's a lot of modifiers, but you know, there's not many of them that apply in every shooting. In most of the shooting in this game so far, I've only had maybe 1 or 2 modifiers actually apply. There you go. 5 + 2 is 7. -2, probably get skirmishers, is a 5. Let's look at the results. We're a standard volley line. And we scored a what? 5. Not a very good roll. 1 casualty, no other notes apply, so it's just 1 casualty is put on the skirmishers. Unfortunately, they already have 1, so that puts them at 2. So it's not enough to take away a base, which would remove this unit of skirmishers. It takes 3 hits to remove a unit of skirmishers, or a base of skirmishers, sorry. And once you're less than 2 bases in size, the unit is dispersed. In other words, removed from the table. So that's the result of that shooting. Not very effective, actually. Quite sad. But another thing to point out is skirmishers. I don't think I mentioned this, but skirmishers. This is a brigade skirmish line. In other words, all the bases came from battalion units. That's what made it up. Typically, it's like 1 base per battalion, that kind of thing. So they had like 4, I think, to start off with. They're down to 2 now. But also, this skirmish line has to remain within 30 centimeters of either the brigadier, the brigade commander, or 30 centimeters of a formed unit within the brigade, like these battalions. So it has to maintain that proximity to its brigade members. And as you can see over here, I don't know if I'm focused. Hold on a second. I might have been out of focus there. Sorry about that. These skirmishers, Saxon skirmishers, also moved. I did actually move them. They were back here. They moved into this position. And I also limbered the Saxon artillery, which were at 6 casualties, which is not very good. I think they're penalized at this point. So they're definitely fatigued. So I did do that. What else we got to shoot here? These guys don't have a target. These guys obviously don't have a target. The cannon can fire. They will do that. And also the cavalry can't shoot. That's an important thing to remember in this game. So let's do the artillery. They're going to issue fire on this advancing unit of French infantry. That's not good. So let's measure the range. Closest point to closest point. We are at about 33 centimeters. Let's look at the ranges. 33 centimeters. Let me get focused. For artillery, these are 6 to 9 pounder guns, which puts us in effective range to that infantry unit. This could be bad. All right, let's go to the modifiers. They're going to roll standard 2d6. Elite battery, discipline test, no. Large battery, assault fire. That's an order you can give, an ADC tasking, which I didn't do. Casualties. This unit has 5 casualties, this battery of guns. So they are penalized -1 in this case. If they're 4 or greater, they suffer -1. 6 or greater, -2. So they're at 5. So they're going to have a -1. Make a note of that. Moved or unlimbered? No. Unformed, low on ammunition? No. And finally, the artillery target is column? No. Square, massed infantry? No. Deployed battery skirmishers? No. In cover? No. They're basically a line formation. And then we'll go to the results in a second. Let me focus in. Again, this is the unit firing. They're going to roll 2d6, and they have a -1. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a pretty good roll. With a -1, it's a 9. Let's check this out. Let's see. They are at effective range. They got a 9, which is 2 and a discipline test. That is not good. So the target will take 2 casualties, and they will take a discipline test, which is taken immediately. So let's mark that unit up here. That's his first casualties. Takes 2. Boom. So they're still considered fresh because they've only taken 2 so far in the battle. There is no bounce through because there's no units within 10 centimeters of this fire lane right there. So there's no bounce through. So that's it. Their fire is resolved, but they do immediately have to make a discipline test. And there's the chart right here. Yes, an angel got his wings. Let's roll that. It's roll 2d6, apply modifiers. Well, let's see what kind of modifiers we're looking at. They are line. They have a 0 modifier for that. Let's see, flanked, unformed, square, 1 charge, casualties, 4+, 8+, no modifier for casualties. Artillery, that's if they take casualties. The artillery, they would have special modifiers because they're artillery with casualties. Doesn't apply. So there's no modifiers for that. It's just a straight up 2d6 roll. And definitely want to get greater than a 3 or less. This is like a lot of the General Brigade games, like Panzer Grenadier. There's that 7+ you need. Once again, I remember that. So let's roll this 2d6. And we get a 5 and a 1. It's a 6. Oh, that's unfortunate, I think. We need a 7+ to obey orders and remain formed. We got 4 to 6. That is unit 4 unformed. If a skirmish unit or an evading unit retreat and lose 1d3 casualties, that would suck. All right, so I basically became unformed as well as taking 2 casualties. So that is that. Mark him with an unformed marker. That's too bad. That's going to limit his forward movement and his effectiveness in shooting. Not a big issue at the moment, but it will. So I'm going to have to reform him. So you can see how cannons, I actually love how cannons work in this game. Not only are you penalized for just shooting away indiscriminately, but the effect of guns, whether it's counter battery or whether it's against infantry in line or column, it seems to be right. It just feels right, like how effective it would be. Like this is nice. You know, here's this line of French advancing at effective range. I open up with how many guns is this? 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm counting here. An 8-gun battery of medium cannon. Boom, blast away. Caused a few casualties, and I informed the units. So they're a little bit disgruntled by that fire. I like it. All right, that's it for the French. or the Russians, sorry. Next thing we're going to do is the French, so I'm going to hustle to the other side of the table and we'll do that. There we go, all set. So here we are on the other side of the table. I want to work with this unit here. Probably do some counter battery fire, although I am tempted to hit back at these infantry. But I'm going to let them off the hook. I've been working away and pounding on these Russian guns for a while. Put them at 5 casualties so far. I'm going to keep doing that. These are still considered fresh. So we're going to do that. I believe it's long range. And it is. It's about 46. And if we look at our modifiers, let's see here. Look at our modifiers. 46 puts it at long range. See, it goes up to 85 centimeters for 6 to 9 pound guns. So we are at long range, unfortunately. So again, let's go through the modifiers. Artillery, blah, blah, blah. For the assault casualties, I only have 2, so no penalty for there. Didn't move, no low ammo, so nothing there. Artillery target is square deployed battery or skirmishers, -2. So that applies, and that's it. So -2. 2d6 with a -2. Ooh, I'm going to re-roll that. It's cocked. There, 4. 4 is 8. No penalties. And we're at long range, which is this column. And we got an 8. There it is. 1 casualty on the artillery. So this 5 changes to a 6. Now that hurts the artillery because if you look at this, when artillery fires, they're going to be penalized -2 because they're at 6 or more casualties. Not good. It also puts them closer to dispersing. Once you've reached the max, you are dispersed. That's pretty much how this game works. I was kind of hesitant about all these numbers of hits units can take. Kind of worried about it. Seems like an awful lot of numbers to keep track of, but it's actually easy, and again, it feels right. So yeah, I'm actually quite happy with that. Yeah. Next, we're going to fire with, these guys can't fire at no target, but the skirmishers can fire. Let's do that. Now, like I said, their fire is a little different. You look at the number of bases in the unit, there's only 2, which is considered a small unit. It's going to roll 2 CD, which is casualty dice. So I'm rolling 2 dice, as usual. Modifiers. Skirmish tasking. There is a task the ADCs can be assigned to called skirmishers. It makes them a little bit more effective when they shoot. Again, there's the 60th and 95th, blah, 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 blah. Unformed, target is skirmishers, casualties. I have 2 casualties, and there's no penalties, so there's no modifiers. And again, all these modifiers are in CD, the casualty dice, the number of dice you roll. And you always need 4+. It's very much like Blucher when it comes to shooting with skirmishers and troops in a garrison. So they're rolling 2d6, they need 4+ to cause a casualty on that unit of Russian line. And they got a 4 and they got a 3. That is 1 casualty suffered on the Russians. They currently have 3 casualties. They now have 4 casualties. And that means they are no longer a fresh unit. They're starting to get fatigued. They're starting to wear down. So there you go. That's the skirmish firing. Next, I got this unit of line. Now, they're out of range. Your arc is 45 degrees left or right of the entire unit's facing. If you're steady, if your brigade is hesitant, you can only shoot straight ahead. That's all units. Artillery, for instance, as well as infantry. So it's kind of restrictive. Another reason to make that command roll. And of course, the Saxons are out of range as well. So are the Saxon skirmishers. So that's it, folks. That is shooting. It usually goes by very quickly. Very enjoyable, very satisfying to roll those dice. And usually what you do, when you do roll your dice to shoot, and you do get bonus CDs or casualty dice, you usually want to roll smaller dice or a different colored dice along with the original 2d6. Because what these bonus dice do is very much like skirmish shooting. They give you an extra casualty on a 4+. So they're handled exactly like skirmish fire. So let's say I'm shooting and I get a bonus of +1 CD. This is what it would look like. There's my standard 2d6, plus I get an extra casualty die. So if this rolls a 4 or greater, that's an extra casualty on top of whatever these two generate when you actually go to this table. So in other words, this dice does not add to these original 2d6. It's just an extra chance to get a casualty on the target. For instance, let's say I have a -1, but I have a +1 CD modifier. So it's going to be 2d6 -1. So this would be a 7. That's what I would look up. This dice, if it rolls a 4 or greater, it didn't in this case, got a 1, this would be an extra casualty, just like shooting with skirmishers. 4 or greater, extra casualties. This result would be looked up on here. This extra dice is simply to see if you get extra casualties. Easy, really. I like it. So there you go, folks. That's shooting for both sides. It took a while to resolve this one. It's because I'm making the video, I think. But next up is going to be melee, which unfortunately there is none. Remember, we didn't have any charges to resolve. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go to the next turn. Now, I'll keep this video series up if you guys like it. I don't do many like this that are kind of like, you know, me playing and filming everything. But if you guys like it, I'll do more of these. We'll see. But I do want to do some melees and some charges where they're actually, so there's some stuff to do. So with my next update, I'll carry through with this and show you what happened. And if you want more details like I did today, where I do a play-by-play, dice roll by dice roll, let me know. I'll do more of them and maybe even continue it with this battle until it's resolved. It's up to you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I wasn't too confusing. And if I made any mistakes anywhere, let me know. I'm still learning myself before I actually do a full review and a full bat rep. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned. I'm going to get into charges and melee next. Take care.